And welcome back to another Witmer&Quake podcast. Obviously, talking hockey here since we split up the podcast, specifically hockey on this podcast now. So, buckle up. We've got our thoughts in a very guns blazing type game
Yeah.
6. Flyers and Canadians.
Oof.
One, I think you probably could have expected was going to boil over at some point. The Canadians obviously had a lot of fight in that game. We'll get to that. We had a bunch of series that were clinched yesterday. We have 2 games that we're going to kick off tonight, and 2 games tomorrow as well. We'll probably break those down a little bit here and there, and we can just get this started off with you got the stat head up on you,
I
Jeffrey?
do. And some will say that this guy leading off the stat head is the best in the game. You can make that argument. He's up
He's
for the Hart
not.
Trophy. I personally don't think he is, even though he's one of my personal favorite players to watch. Nathan McKinnon, he had 4 points yesterday, exploding, 2 goals, 2 assists in their dominating Colorado Avalanche's 7-1 series clinching win in Game 5 over the Arizona Coyotes. You also had Nazem Kadri, who, wow. I'm not the biggest fan of Kadri. A lot of people who follow me and everything
I'm
know
aware.
that.
Did you like my
I know
Did you
you're
like my
aware.
text I sent you
I
yesterday?
did. I did. But he put up 2 goals as well. He's been absolutely on fire for the Avalanche, and I'll talk about Kadri later.
I want to kind of get into that a little
Yeah,
bit too.
and we will. One of your favorite players, Joel Armia, got 2 goals against the Flyers yesterday.
I'll get to why I hate him in a second too.
Yeah, I'm very curious on why you don't like him. Yeah, so we'll get
Let's
to that
just say
later.
it's similar for why I hate Shiri. Okay, he changed his name like 3 times. The way he pronounces his
Oh,
name.
yeah, because
It's
I've always
Joel
pronounced it Joel
Yoel.
Armia.
Yeah,
Everyone's saying it's
Joel
Joel Armia.
Yoel.
I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah,
It's Joel. Anyway, Tyler Mott also had 2 goals. In Vancouver's when they pull ahead in the series, 3-2. JT Miller, a goal and assist. Patrice Bergeron, a goal and an assist in Boston's series clinching game against the Hurricanes. And last but not least, Jake Voracek, 2 goals and an assist. The goalies, we got some good ones here. Yaroslav Halak, 23 saves, 24 shots, .958 save percentage, only 1 goal allowed. 36 saves made by Markstrom, 39 shots with the W. Only, he did allow 3 goals, but he looked pretty solid for the most part. .923 save percentage. And Phil Grubauer, .958 save percentage, 23 saves on 24 shots. As I mentioned, Boston won their series 2-1. Krejci and Bergeron for the Bruins. Hayden Fleury, the lone goal scorer for Carolina. Carolina's season is over. They're out of the playoffs, and that's not the only season that was over. The Avalanche ended the Coyotes season. Clayton Keller, the only goal. You had Nathan McKinnon and Kadri scoring 2 goals. Samuel Girard, Nikita Zadorov, and JT Comfort all scoring for the Avalanche in that 7-1 victory.
back-to-back
Last,
games 7-1. The Coyotes
yes,
gave up on the series.
yes. A big game for the Canadians. They keep their season alive, winning 5-3. An explosive game for goals, hits, fights, scrums, possible suspensions, all sorts of stuff. So we'll break that down in a little bit. Vancouver getting another victory, 4-3 in this one. A great game here. They pull ahead in series, 3-2. Braden Shen, O'Reilly, and Zach Sanford all scoring for the Blues. Tyler Mott scoring twice. JC Miller and Jake Virtanen for Vancouver. Last but not least, the first game of the day, Tampa Bay. They have a clutch player in Braden Point. Yet again, another overtime winner. This one finishes off the series, and the Tampa Bay Lightning advance to the second round, exercising their demons, and they get rid of those guys. That the pesky Blue Jackets who swept them last year.
Mm-hmm.
Foligno, Stenlund, Wenberg, and Borgstrom each got a goal. It was, I believe, Shattenkirk, if not Anthony Cirelli,
Mm-hmm.
who got the game-tying goal with about 1:30 left in the game, and then before Braden Point won it with 5 minutes into the first overtime. So that is the stat head for today from yesterday's games. And we'll see what happens tonight. You have the New York Islanders an 8 p.m. start, and then they're looking to close out their series against Washington. And you have, I believe it
Dallas and
is
Calgary.
Dallas and Calgary. Thank you, Mike. 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, right after the Islanders and Caps game. So there you have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just we'll highlight some of the series that were clinched. Another one we didn't mention, but Vegas also clinched their
Yes,
series the
thank
other
you.
day against
That's
the
right.
Chicago Blackhawks, which should not have been a surprise to
No.
anyone except for maybe Blackhawks fans, because
Yeah.
I think they're still kind of not that they don't have a pretty bright future coming forward with going forward with some of the young players they had in the series and everything, with as going all hand in hand with the veterans that they got in Kane and
Yep.
Tays, Keith and Corey and Crawford too, who, if you remember correctly, before all this was positive for the coronavirus, didn't actually play a game until the first game against the Oilers. So that is very impressive for them to get this far. I know for Jeff and I's sake, we thoroughly enjoyed that they got kicked out.
Yep.
The only thing that would have made it better if it was a sweep, but I think that's the biggest part. I got a bold prediction, right, Jeff? No sweeps in the whole first round.
Which is nuts.
After last year's first round, at least 2 or 3
Two sweeps because it was the Islanders sweeping the Penguins, Blue Jackets sweeping the Lightning, and I want to say that was it for last year's playoffs in the first round. That is.
Yeah. Which one do you think is the most surprising out of the teams that have clinched? I know none of them really are that surprising. I think the most surprising you can maybe make an argument for, even though it's not really, is maybe the Islanders if they finish it out tonight. There's also this flip side to that, is that the Capitals haven't had Backstrom, and that's a bigger loss.
Big.
Yeah, it's a big.
So I'm not going to comment on the Islanders Capital series until that's officially over.
I don't really want to either, because we've already talked about them a good about. So the one I do want to say that's kind of was actually kind of a surprise to me, mostly because of how game 6 ended. Game 5 ended for Tampa Bay, was that Columbus blew a lead again.
They did.
A team that's very much known for being so defensive oriented, being so great defensive oriented, or so good at shutting teams down. And obviously the Lightning are on paper the best team, so obviously it's going to be hard to shut them down. And maybe that's why they were able to come back, and their firepower that the Lightning have, and now the grit that they added to that to be able to compete against a team like the Blue Jackets. But it does bear the question of it. It's very strange that a Tortorella-esque team like that Columbus team that they had was multiple times this playoffs too, playing, and then in the series they had a couple leads slip away, and this one was a big one because they had a 2-0 lead at one point. Oh no, sorry, they came back and then took the lead. John Cooper even called his timeout because the Lightning were were struggling so much in the second, but then they just it was the Lightning being the Lightning and just keeping their power going, and they were just able to do it, scoring late in the third period, and then obviously Braden Point after a very bad turnover and him pretty much being in all alone. And at that point, the series was over at that point because
it was a bad turnover by David Savard, which is a little surprising because Savard has actually been really good for the Blue Jackets. So that's
and
part of it surprised
there
me
was
a little
nothing
bit.
Korpisalo could have done there.
No, he was in trouble. He gave it the best he could, but Point just absolutely undressed him. It was such a great move, and again, like I said, Tampa Bay took care of business.
About Braden Point, Jeff, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe
he's going to be an RFA.
Oh no, never mind. I was wrong. Why did I think I heard someone say he was undrafted?
No, he
He
definitely
was
wasn't.
drafted. Yeah, he was drafted in the 3rd round in
Yeah,
2014.
yeah. I was gonna say there's
Idiots.
no way he was
Yeah.
undrafted. But yeah,
Never mind.
so he actually,
Scratch
someone
that.
was saying he's going to be an RFA, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of this year.
No, it's not. He was RFA at
Huh?
the end of last year.
Oh, it was last year. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, because I was trying to think. I was like,
Yeah, he
especially
just got
at
a
the
new
end of this.
he just got a new contract.
That's right.
For
That's
3
right.
years. At the end of that contract, he'd still be an RFA in 2022, 2023.
That's what I'm thinking.
But he's making 6.75 mil
Yeah.
the next
Go.
3 years. So, or 2
Yeah.
years after this.
But the one thing I did want to say real quickly about the series. So even though Tampa Bay on paper, if you look at this series, Tampa Bay dominated the series. Oh, winning in 5. Oh man, Tampa Bay they destroyed them. Not even close to being the case. Every game, including that amazing first game of the 5 overtime game,
It was
this
close one.
series was a marathon. This felt like a 7-game series, even though it only went to 5.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen when he put the Blue Jackets. They're not going to give as many goals as they did in game 5. But similar to what we talked about last time, Carey Price having a shaky goal, at certain times, defensive teams will have those moments of shakiness, and especially if you're facing the Lightning. But that was the first game where the Lightning's offensive power, or at least late in the game, really showed up.
Not only
Because
that, but they were without Steven Stamkos the entire series.
Yeah, which shows you their depth and what they can still do without him.
Absolutely.
Once he is actually back for the Lightning, that just makes him even more hard to defend against, because they're just so deep. What's going to be interesting is that, and this series is brutal for them just because of how close it was. Their next series facing the Bruins is going to be equally as challenging. Obviously,
so is that confirmed that they're playing the Bruins?
Well, if
the Islanders win their
if
series,
the Capitals if the Capitals were to come back, we would face then it would be the Bruins as the worst seed. So if the Flyers win tomorrow night, we'd be playing Boston, and then Tampa Bay would be playing Washington. But that would just be if Washington were to come back, which is still possible. We've seen it happen. I don't really see it happening. They may squeak out another win tonight, but I just don't see it happening.
I think the Islanders will take care of them in 5.
Yeah, Barry Trotz knows this team too well. He was literally there 2 years ago. He knows the team. It's really, he knows how to shut down Ovechkin. And yes, he had another 2-goal game. And again, I didn't want to talk about that series, but again,
but
the two I had and really for both of our sakes, because and actually let's go to that Boston series actually. I think that's actually a good segment, or good little transition there, because obviously that was the most even as a series as you can get on paper, the two teams facing each other. And the only reason why I think both of us kind of had Carolina taking it was because of how poor the Bruins had started out. But the Bruins are back to being the Bruins. And what sucked for the Hurricanes really was at the beginning of the series not having Williams, and then late in the series
losing Svechnikov.
Yeah, that was huge. And again, it's similar to last year. Svechnikov was hurt last year too. So if this team is fully healthy throughout the playoffs, they are very dangerous. Mrazek had a very shaky goal in that game, obviously. I'm not going to put their loss all on Mrazek, because Mrazek had some good saves in the series. He kept them in it when he had to. The 2 shaky goals he gave up, believe it or not, were both to Bergeron in the first game, and the overtime where he drifted too far, and pretty much Bergeron had to open that, and the one where he pretty much just bounced it off his pad and it went in. And the game clincher. And pretty much that was the game winner. So that was really deflating for Mrazek. But that's one area that Hurricanes, I keep saying it, they have to deal with that goaltending. That's the one issue that's, I think, for me, really making me I don't know if they can go that far just because of it. I know it's everything else in front of him is so good. It's that weakness there it can be shaky. And that's why I have so much kind of a trust issue with Mrazek, just because even though we didn't see him long in Philadelphia, he still has that tendency to have those shaky moments. And in the series, he had those moments. unfortunately.
No,
And I
and
don't
he
want to
really
again. I
does.
don't want to
He
I don't want to completely crap on the guy because of
right.
that series or anything, but he kept them in it, and it's just
No,
unfortunate.
for
But
sure. He definitely kept the Hurricanes in it, and he played well against the New York Rangers, and he played for the most part well enough in the Bruins series. I really think again, it's very important for Carolina to see what they can do during the offseason. Again, the cap.
there's a couple decent goalies that are UFAs this offseason.
Not only that,
Um,
including Jacob Markstrom, is a big one. He's expected to get a big one. But the
well,
problem is for
it's how
So
well.
the problem for Carolina is they don't have much room in cap.
Mhm.
Um, they have a few expiring contracts that are a little expensive, but they're all guys that are a little, in my opinion, they're pretty key to this team's defense. You have Trevor Van Riemsdyk, Sammy Vatanen, and Joel Edmondson. So if you, let's say hypothetically, if you get rid of all their contracts, um,
And
that's
well,
about
obviously, but before I get
7.8 mil that would come off the board, and that would be huge for them. But again, that's if they don't resign him, and I don't see that happening. Those three guys, they give this Carolina Hurricanes team a lot of depth and everything, and there's unfortunately not a lot of good options out there. Warren Fogel's an RFA, same thing with TVR, and I'm sorry, not TVR. Hayden Fleury, they're bound to get some
mhm.
good contracts, and so it's we'll
I
see what
don't.
happens, but
I think they should go goaltender. I don't think they're going to. They already have 6.5 mil tied to it, and obviously we're going to get to a bigger deep dive of the Hurricanes during the
yeah.
offseason. But just quickly, that's one thing. But some of the goalies that I mentioned before that are free upcoming UFAs. Granted, some of these goalies could easily re-sign back,
Mhm.
but Brendan Holtby obviously being one of the top ones, he is a UFA. Corey Crawford, but again, he may just go back to
Yeah.
Chicago. Robin Lehner's another one. Jacob Markstrom, who you just mentioned. Thomas
Yep.
Greiss, maybe someone can steal him away from the Islanders. He's
That would
34
be
now.
interesting to see.
And
Um,
Kudobin too. He's also as a backup or even Aaron Dell. I think he's a solid backup.
there's a
Um,
few guys
for a
on this
team
list for me
that
that
for
would be very interesting to see
yeah,
the
and
Hurricanes go after.
yeah, and for the only reason why I bring up some of those guys is if they want to keep kind of that goalie tandem because those guys you just mentioned outside of Leonard, if they want to make an offer for him, but he's going to cost you a lot and
Yeah.
probably more than the Hurricanes are going to be willing to offer him. Those guys still give you an option, especially Grice. If you go after him, he still at times can still be
Yeah.
a solid goaltender. He's not a starter. None of those other guys are really starter-esque. Maybe Markstrom, but even then, he's 30, which isn't obviously that horrible, but that's the
Mhm.
later stages of his career. Cam
Yeah.
Talbot's another one who's a free agent.
And
Um,
honestly, so two of the other names that I would keep an eye on for the Hurricanes are Linus Olmark from Buffalo and Laurent Brossoit from Winnipeg, 26
mhm.
and 27 years old.
Yeah,
So keep an eye out for those guys as well.
yeah, I agree. It's nothing against really Mrazek or Reimer. It's just kind of just a slight upgrade. I don't know if really Reimer was an upgrade as much to McElhinney from the year prior before.
It seemed
Um,
to. It
I
almost
mean,
seemed like it
McElhinney played well
wasn't.
last year when Mrazek went down. McElhinney played
Right,
well
that's
for
what
them
I'm
in the
saying.
playoffs, and even
Like for example, it almost seemed like it wasn't an upgrade because look how well Chris McElhinney played last year.
mhm,
He helped carry that team in the playoffs and everything, and at times looked phenomenal. And
and he's now
um,
in Tampa Bay.
he's
So
he's now in Tampa Bay and everything. And for Carolina, though, they got a lot of questions this offseason. And now that they are officially eliminated, we will do a deep dive on them at
later
some
on,
point.
yeah.
But also,
Um,
now that they are eliminated, we know that their first round pick that now belongs to the New York Rangers in the Brady Shea deal will be somewhere kind of in the middle. The maybe between 16th and 18th overall, somewhere around there.
yeah,
So
somewhere in there.
that's a pretty good pick for the New York Rangers. They have the first overall, of course, and now somewhere
Yeah,
I'd imagine between 16th to 18th overall.
yeah, it's not bad. They could easily trade one of them to do
Yeah,
something if they want to do that.
yeah, and I
Obviously,
agree.
last year they signed Panarin. They traded for Truba, so maybe they want to do similar to a Flyers
Get
rebuild, but also
a center.
rebuild, but also trying to kind of be in that realm of possibly being on the cusp of a bubble, being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The two other series that were clinched in the West, I feel were just kind of already known. I know I did a bold thinking maybe Arizona could take Colorado, but a lot of that depended on sorry. I do that all the time.
Bishop.
No, not Bishop. He doesn't play for Arizona.
I'm sorry. Kemper,
yeah. It all depended on Kemper. Every game kind of playing on his head.
Because and he played great.
Even though on paper with Taylor Hall and Phil Kessel, you would have thought, and even Clayton Keller, who put up a couple goals too, you would have thought, and Ekman Larson, who's a pretty offensive type of defenseman, you would have thought they would have been able to put up a little more offense, but the offense just wasn't there for them.
Unfortunately, it wasn't. Like you mentioned,
I kind of doubt Hall
they
resigns.
lost 7-1 the last 2 games now.
Yeah, they gave up. After that 7-1 the first time, I don't think they really had it really end up to do it again. And yeah, it's a rough one. And I like the Coyotes. I like Rick Tocchet. They're still on that. They're still in the weird stages, and this one's going to take us a little more to really deep dive into.
And it's a very interesting team to do a deep dive on. Of course, you have Taylor Hall. He's going to be a UFA. He's probably going to be the top prize free agent in the offseason, maybe besides potentially Braden Holtby, and Alexander Pietrangelo, yeah. But the one thing I would not be surprised with Taylor Hall is, let's say if he does want to go back to Arizona, I feel like no matter what team he goes to, though, including Arizona, it could be a 1-year deal. I would not be shocked. Just again, look at how low the cap is again. And
now what even more I'm excited for, hopefully, is that next year, possibly the Coyotes will go back to their old logo, and the black jersey they have now will also be an away jersey. And I like the white ones more than I like the black ones.
Ooh, that's an interesting.
That could be right.
Thought.
Anyways, and again, like I said, to start this whole kind of talking about teams that ended their series, Vegas is another one where it was just those. Both Chicago and Arizona didn't really deserve to be in the playoffs. They were pretty much eliminated.
I'd say Arizona deserved to be in the playoffs more than Chicago did.
Yeah, they did, but even if the season would have continued, they
wouldn't have. Right? No, I get what you're saying.
But
yeah.
And again, there's still that surprise, that one surprise we mentioned last time in Vancouver. Now the defending Cup champions have a lot to deal with now. Do they go back to Buntington? Maybe does another change? Is Jake Allen enough? Because you got to now win 2 more games, and again, it seems like you can't really be able to shut down, even with some of as good as the defensive team you are, and Ryan O'Reilly as good as he is. You just can't seem to shut down that Vancouver team.
Interesting to note here, though, it was Jake Allen who was in net last night, and you have you don't play again until Friday night, 9:45. It's such a tough thing. It's because, again, Allen's been playing much better than Binnington. You want every chance to win the series, but if you put Binnington in, because he's sat now the last 2 games at least,
there could be a fire under his ass. He could.
I think there will be, and I think he'll do great. Again, that's if he plays. I could be wrong. I think they could go. I wouldn't be shocked if they go with Allen, but that just goes to show that Jordan Binnington isn't this perfect goalie everyone seems to think he is. He's still learning a lot in this league. He's 27.
Yeah.
26, 27, somewhere around there. But he has a lot to learn in this league still, especially for it being his only second year.
He's only 3 years younger than Jake Allen.
There you go. You never know. I could see it going both ways.
Unfortunately, when you hit that late 20s, early 30s, you know what type of goaltender you're going to get.
Yeah.
That's why Jake Allen, I don't really have much trust in either, because you already know what you're going to get in him. I know Binnington, in the NHL sense, is still young, and he is technically still young. He's only in his 20s, late mid-20s. But the goalie you're probably going to get. So
Right.
he'll have moments of being really well, but other moments it seems like he'll be shaky.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that he's going to have to work on is trying to be a little more consistent. And we
and we'll see
the whole
what
thing
happens
last
with
time
that.
on the Blues, so on that whole goaltending thing. So we don't have to get too much into that.
Right.
Is there anything else in these playoffs you want to talk about first before we go into this Flyers Canadian series?
Not necessarily. I think we've talked again. We kind of knew going into today's podcast here that it would be a Flyer day,
Yeah,
and I'm just
realistically,
looking. I'm just
league-wise,
looking.
that kind of goes hand in hand with the series as well because a lot
Right.
happened last night.
And it did, and I'm definitely looking forward to breaking down the rest of the series and everything. But it's really, I think, all the focus is on now this Montreal Philadelphia series, that the Flyers, they have their second chance tomorrow night to close out this series. And the only thing I will say is that they need to close out tomorrow night. They can't afford to go to a game 7. If it does, it could be catastrophic. And I would not be surprised if Montreal would win game 7 if it leads to that.
Right.
That's why the Philadelphia Flyers need to get it tomorrow. They need to get the win. They need to end it.
And I think
I don't care what the score is. I don't care if it's the boring hockey they played most of the series, except for last night.
I think it's gonna be similar to the last 2 games you saw, where it was a little more open.
And no, I agree. It definitely could be like that. I'm saying, it doesn't matter what the score is.
I know what you're saying, but I could see it being not as much as that at the beginning, because right now the Canadians are still in that desperate kind of stage.
Yeah.
Because again, it's win or go home. So for them, they're going to come out with probably the same attitude.
And they will. And the Flyers should expect that.
And it just came out because after the Niskanen hit, that Gallagher received has a broken jaw.
Yep.
So I think I heard Mitch said earlier that he may not play for the rest of the series, but maybe he will.
He will not. It's Mark Bergevin added that Gallagher will require surgery and is out for the series.
For the Flyers' sake, that's actually good, because as a pesky as he is still very vital to that team just because of offensively what he can bring. I know last night was the first he actually put one back in the whole playoffs and playing, but he is still that threat. And I think both sides are going to come back into the series angry, especially the Flyers, because they gave up 2 very easy goals almost quickly after they had just scored, or while they were on the power play, which had struggled, but they actually got some goals in last night as well. They got 2 power play goals, because the Flyers only put up 2 goals, right? No, they put up 3. Sorry, the last one was later in the third, but
Joel Farabee,
But I will say this, because I want to talk about this too, because the whole thing everyone brings up about the Flyers, especially if you watch it nationally, is how none of those, like, quote unquote stars or top players have put any goals in the back of the net. One, Sean Couturier is snake bitten. He's come close many times. He's just snake bitten.
Same thing with Travis Konechny.
I
cannot tell you how many times
Drew finally decided to shoot instead of pass. And
he had a good amount of shots, and Drew also put up 2 assists last night, so he's getting
Couturier
on
as
the
well.
board. Yeah, so they're getting on the board, which is good.
They just haven't scored. For some reason, they care more about the goals than actually the points themselves.
Yeah.
But Jake Voracek has been, at least for the Flyers' sake, the most consistent offensive player for the Flyers.
He has. He put up he put up 3 points last night.
Offense as there's been in this series, he has been the most of what the Flyers have been able to get. That's actually pretty good, because what you usually see is Voracek as a passer. Most of his points come from assists.
Yeah.
He's kind of a pass first kind of guy, and rightfully so, because he has a very good no look pass kind of thing. And you saw that almost Couturier goal in the power play that was broken up by Shea Weber. That came on the one power play that they had early on in the game. He just played. He drew a penalty early in the game. He was ready to go. Unfortunately, it seemed like the defense and the fourth line specifically kind of let him down a bit. And more so, I'd say the veteran guys on the blue line, Matt Niskanen, and Justin Braun. Haig didn't have a particularly great game either. And the fourth line, all three lines, the first, second, and third line, looked good. They were actually getting some positive offensive zone time. They were getting chances. The only line that wasn't, that was getting beat, that I think most of the goals came against, was that fourth line. That fourth line looked terrible last night.
Yeah.
And even late in the third period, they were coming out. It was like, what are you doing? At
Yeah,
this point in the
the
game,
Flyers, they are someone I forget who it was. I can't remember the top of my head. Apologize, but someone put it best, saying AV has been great all year, and I love AV, but
I think it was.
if the Flyers lose
I know
this
who it
game,
was.
Alexander Appleyard, that's who it
Appleyard.
was.
Yeah, you sent it to me.
If the Flyers lose this game, it's
on
all on
AV.
the AV.
Yeah.
He overplayed the fourth line, and he's absolutely right. There's no need to overplay that fourth line, consisting
especially with how good the
Tyler
first three lines have been.
Nate Thompson, and
Connor Bunnaman.
Connor Bunnaman.
After we actually praised them in the last,
after
we praised them in the last game, they looked awful.
I know Pitlick. He looked all right. He didn't have that great of a game. He had a very good hit early on. Absolutely rocked.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, because Raffle was pushed up in the lineup, I think that really hurt that fourth line, because I really think he makes that fourth line as good as it was. Yeah. And now that he was on the first line, maybe he'll go back down. Maybe lines will be juggled again. We've seen AV do it already. So maybe it'll happen again, and especially if, because I'm pretty certain Bunnaman was benched, so I assume JVR's back.
I'm hoping at least JVR's in the game, if not at least Nicholas Aube-Kubel
is healthy enough to play.
Yes, correct. So we'll have to see.
But for that sake, and I guess we can go back to the two big things that came out of
controversial plays.
Yeah, the first one came at the beginning of the second period, where Kakataniemi pretty much nailed Travis Sanheim into the boards in front of the penalty box, which caused Travis Sanheim's forehead to bleed. He was from his visor. Luckily, he didn't seem to have any concussion. I thought he might have had a concussion, maybe, but
which is shocking. The fact that he even came back. I don't know if
even Hayes at one point. And I know it's not even related, but when he went hard to the boards at one point, you thought he was fine, but you saw like they stayed on a second on him longer. He's like, he's fine. Yep.
Yeah.
Kevin Hayes is fine.
But
also, that should have been a penalty shot. But
no, it 100% should have been a penalty shot. He never got a clear shot off the net. He was in the middle of his shot.
He's another one who's snake bitten too.
He is, yeah. But all right. So let's go. Let's go talk about that Katsuganimi hit on Travis Sanheim first. There's been a lot of uproar on it. First things first, I am just ridiculously surprised by someone as, an analyst such as talented and, loved and everything like that by Craig Button. He was saying not only shouldn't it have been maybe only a 2-minute penalty, he was basically laughing at the fact, and let me bring up the exact tweet. Basically, he was kind of rubbing in the face at the Flyers bet and Alain Vigneault, saying because Vigneault's comments were about how
pretty much both coaches had two. They said it differently, but they pretty much had the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Their hits that the players gave, they thought were fine, but
they're a hockey play, yeah.
But the other ways they thought were
dirty,
yeah. But
so when Vigneault said it, that Niskanen's play was a hockey play and whatnot, Button said, "Surprise, surprise! Coach says it's an unfortunate hockey play when it is his player who's the aggressor. If his player was the victim, he'd be crying, and he even put a crying emoji face for a suspension, and it's a suspension. Vicious cross-check to the head. Height has nothing to do with it. I'm pretty sure height had a lot to do with it. Not only that, but Brendan Gallagher was leaned over, and if he doesn't want to get cross-checked in the face, why don't you
it was going to be a penalty.
Dirty plays yourself?
Yeah, he was being an asshole all game. He tried fighting Provorov like twice,
Literally,
and it
like
didn't
2
happen.
minutes in the
And
game.
Niskanen took effect to that, and he was doing that the whole game to him. And they finally called it early in the game. They were calling penalties. Actually, thought pretty well.
It was
Later in the
absolutely
game, I
absurd.
thought the refs kind of lost it a bit and were missing obvious calls.
Yeah,
Um,
no, there's
but
some horrible calls that
but
were
actually,
missed.
that Niskanen call wasn't actually called. They didn't call it, but Niskanen was actually going for a cross check, and that was when he was one. Gallagher was turned when his back was
Yeah,
turned to him. So when he turned around, he was already in the middle of going to go for his cross check.
yeah,
It
and
was going to be a
like
penalty no matter what, and it was already a legal play because he can't cross check.
right.
But
A cross check is a cross check, but look, the guy is turning. Gallagher's turning, and it looked like he was going for his back, but you can't anticipate. Again, Gallagher, he's the fast player. He's a small guy. So when you're turning, and all of a sudden your face is right there, what do you think you're gonna hit? You're gonna hit your throat that's like sticking up here. No, the guy's like 5'4", 5'5", or whatever. I'm exaggerating, but he's a small dude. Even with skates, he's like maybe like all right, like 5'8", 5'9" or so. But
yeah,
he's a small
for hockey
player.
sense, it's small.
Yeah, exactly. But for hockey sense, it's small. But he turned, he got hit. No penalty
Yeah,
was called, which was a little surprising. Even though a ref was looking again, I think this referee crew, led by Chris Lee, did a horrible job.
they did.
They deserve to get kicked out of the bubble for how god awful this series they're calling so far, or at least this game. Looking at the stats, ready for this. This is how many penalties they called: 14, 7 on each end. Who
Yeah,
does that during the playoffs?
I don't know. Early in the game, it seemed like they were letting stuff go, but then
Exactly. It's
as the
like
game
something
went
all of a
on,
sudden something changed. It's like ever since that
and
the
then
Sanheim
and
hit.
then near the end of the game, they let everything go pretty much for the Montreal sense, but for the Flyers, anything they
They
did, it
called everything.
was a
Oh,
penalty.
by the way, here's my question for you.
How
How do
does
you
Travis Konechny's stick just randomly explode? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
there's also that,
I
but
thought maybe there was a stick there that slashed it, but it just randomly exploded on him after the face off. But nothing was called.
yeah. And
But to
then
go, I think real quick actually,
yeah.
because Charlie O'Connor, and we think we're going to reference him a couple times in this podcast, but this first one, he had a little thread about the whole Niskanen hit, and the one I want to highlight more is the second tweet he had, uh,
Yeah.
which was, and I kind of agree with him on this, and this is kind of how I feel about the hit as well. But he says the slow motion looks quite bad, as violent plays often do, but it also shows Niskanen begins his cross check before Gallagher turns. I'm out. He's trying to cross check him in the back, but cross checks are illegal, and on illegal plays, you're responsible for worse than expected results.
Yeah.
And realistically, that's what happened. He turned at the wrong time, and at that time, Niskanen didn't have enough time to really readjust what he was doing. No matter what, he was going to get hit in the face.
Right. The other thing is, so there's another tweet not too long after this. After his announced that Gallagher's out for the rest of the series, and he does need surgery, it sounds like. Charlie tweeted out, considering the severity of the injury, I wouldn't be surprised if they suspend Niskanen for the potential remainder of the series too. Once the play is deemed to be illegal and worthy of discipline, as the NHL already has in this case, injury severity can affect punishment. So the fact that, again, I think that the league was waiting for the Canadians to announce if Gallagher would be out long, which clearly he is. He's going to be out. I don't know exactly how long he'll be out for. He'll at least miss the rest of the series, whether it ends in 6 or if it goes to 7. But regardless, though, the one thing that did annoy me was on how much of this crap that the Canadians pulled. The play by Nick Suzuki, he's a young kid, the helmet tap after a goal
Oh
on
yeah, and his
Carter
comments
Hart.
after it that I didn't really mean to. It's just
Yeah,
an moment.
look at Brock Nelson last year to the Hurricanes when he did that. How'd that go? Not only that, but the coaches'
Oh
comments.
yeah, everyone saw that. So the Flyers are going to come out even harder because they saw that happen.
Exactly, and
The Canadians
it's
did so much. I think both sides, I don't think, are equally as at fault, and I think that both sides have enough to kind of
Yeah.
have enough energy to go into the game. Montreal for the Niskanen hit. But Niskanen's probably not going to play, so who really cares? And Niskanen hasn't been playing that well, so for the
No.
Flyers' sake, that actually might be a benefit. And for the Flyers' sake, that happened. There were a couple other plays that were kind of vicious. They got a little, dirty at the end. So maybe.
By the way, there's the play at the very end of the game where after the Canadiens scored an empty net goal, Couturier, he had a hit on, I think it was Lehkonen, and people were calling that a blindside hit.
It wasn't.
How are you calling
even
that
anything.
a blindside hit? It was basically more of a collision than anything. They saw each other and it happened to collide.
Yeah.
How is that a blindside hit?
I don't know.
I could be completely wrong. Maybe this is just me being a Flyers fan, whatever. I don't care. But it was not a blindside hit. Also, kind of going back to what Kirk Muller said about the Travis Sanheim play, about how he said it was a good hockey play along Kotkaniemi. Here's my thing. So Kirk Muller, he used to play in the NHL. He was a good player. He played during the 80s and 90s where plays and hits like those were still legal. There's a reason why the penalty was called on Kotkaniemi. He left his feet. He aimed high on Sanheim. He drove his face basically into the glass/boards, wherever it was the glass. Yeah. He's Muller. He's an old school guy, so I'm not the least bit surprised he called the hit on Sanheim a good hockey play.
Yeah, the only
it's
thing
a dirty hit.
The only thing I would
no
say,
matter what you say.
The only thing I'd say on that one is that he didn't hit him in the head. I think he hit him more in the chest, but his head hit the glass.
Right, but regardless, though,
also
you can't hit a guy in the numbers. When you see the numbers, you've got to let up. Now, if and by the way,
also if you're looking at the rolling for boarding and reasons for being a major, that qualified for it. That's why he got ejected. It got reviewed, and guess what? That was upheld. So that's what happens.
Right.
And yeah, I get Kotkaniemi is a decent player. He's not great. He's okay.
He's not great yet. He has the potential to be great, but he is not great.
He can't grow facial hair.
He's still a very young kid. He's a lot to learn. He's grown over the season, but again, he really needs to learn when to make a good hit and when to prevent a bad hit.
The Flyers did technically take advantage because they did score 2 times in the major power play.
They did. If they had a good power play, they would have scored more.
Well, yeah. The Flyers' fourth line and defense didn't shit the bed. They probably would have also maybe at least taken the game to overtime. Yeah. And maybe you were right. And maybe Brian Elliott should have played last night.
Like you said, and again, this is exactly why I said what I said.
Not that Hart played terribly.
Again, he didn't play terrible. But again, this is exactly why I prefer to start Brian Elliott in Game 5 last night. Again, Carter Hart, he didn't look great. He didn't look terrible. Still letting 4 goals. One of those goals, it went in. It was a bad goal he gave up, but luckily it was ruled offside. And then people were criticizing Alain Vigneault for keeping Hart back out there after he initially went to pull him. I don't think that's fair of anyone to do that because, again, to me, Hart played great the rest of the period after that moment happened.
He didn't get a lot of chances after the period ended, but he started getting.
To your point, he didn't. But my point is, Vigneault, to his credit, he said he was getting ready to pull Hart, and he saw the look in his eyes, and
then he had him come over, and he was calming, saying, "Look, calm down."
He's like, "Look, you know what? It's all good.
Offside. We know it's offside.
Yeah, okay? Get back into that." And that gave him a huge boost in
confidence. I'm sure once they came back into the locker room and the period ended, luckily there was no more damage after the second period.
Yeah.
But they were probably all Flyers players included being like, "They're good. It's on us."
Especially all the veterans.
That was on us too. It's not just on you. We should have defended that play better as well. Even if that goal would have counted, we should have defended it better. So
the way I'll put it though is the Flyers, despite winning faceoffs, 60% of the faceoffs though, they didn't do enough to get this victory. They weren't prepared for the first period at all. They looked very flat. To the Habs' credit, they looked sharp.
They took advantage.
They took a huge advantage. And by the way, one thing
Again,
to
that's
keep
one
in
thing I've
mind
always said
for the
about
rest of the playoffs is that everyone, and I don't care whether you're playing Edmonton, Toronto, who, if you're in the first game of this of the day, the second, or even the third, watch out for those lively boards. That is how the
yeah.
Flyers gave up their first goal.
And if you look in the Niskanen how he played that, he played it
Yeah.
awful. He
Maxime
didn't do
Ouellet,
anything.
no, Ouellet for the Canadians, he fired a bank pass off the boards. I don't, maybe the puck was a little too fast for Carter Hart. I don't know, but the defense played that awful. You see Joel Armia, the goal scorer.
Sanheim was trying to play it if it was going to bank.
Right.
Like
Again,
what he thought it was going to be
anticipated the
happen.
bank wrong, and you see
And
Armia. He made a very smart play by looking to see. So Sanheim was here, and Armia was kind of trailing behind. The moment that the puck was dumped in, he saw the first bounce off the board. Armia cut towards Sanheim's left, and basically a one-time snapshot, easy goal.
Yeah.
So again, you gotta watch out for those lively boards. Again, huge credit to Armia. He's a very smart player. He's a very underrated player, in my opinion. He's very smart, provides a lot of depth for the Montreal Canadiens, and he is a player to watch out for, especially now in Game 6. So
stick to a name, though. Just stick to one name.
Yeah. I don't know why. Why does that look like it's pronounced Yol Armia?
It's French Canadian, I think. It's just that kind of thing.
It's dumb. It's literally clearly pronounced
I've heard it
Joel.
said 3 times. Joel, Joel, and even like Joel.
Oh yeah, Yoel. Yeah, Yoel,
like,
Joel, and Joel.
Pick a name.
Yeah.
Pick a name and stick with it. Okay.
I've always thought it was Joel Armia. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I'm sticking with that. Kind of like I'm sticking with Sherry. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah. All in all, it was a pretty ugly game. A lot of big hits, a lot.
But
of big
I will
moments.
actually say this. Sorry, I lost what I was going to say, but I just remembered. On that play, especially that Armia goal, his second, I think that was his second goal in the game. Or was that his first? I forget.
Which one?
The bounce one, the shorthanded one. Was that his first or was that his second?
That was the first goal of the game.
But that one, to me, more so, I fought Niskanen more than Sanheim, because Sanheim's playing it if the puck bounces that way. Now, but obviously, both didn't play it well. But Niskanen should have anticipated in case it came back the way it did, and also kept an eye on Armia for him coming in. But he just kind of stood there and puck watched. And
also
Justin Braun,
looking at
who we've come to dislike again, like we did at the beginning of the season.
I'm not gonna lie, Justin Braun, he's looked like the regular season Justin Braun the first half. The play that when the Flyers gave up that last goal,
pretty much that game winner.
It was the game winner to Nick Suzuki. Both Justin Braun and
Robert Haig. And it was the fourth line. It was literally the line he didn't want out there against the top line.
Again, I get it. You need something out there, but you just scored the game-tying goal in a potential series clinching game. Why are you having your fourth line out there so much? Not only that, but why put your fourth line out there after you tie the game? But looking at the start of this game, the start of the rush, you have Armia and it looks like Suzuki on the left side of the boards by the benches, and it's already a 2-on-2. 3 Flyers players are caught rushing back. Literally, they're all rushing back. They look like they're in a straight line doing line rushes for a drill. Nate Thompson, surprisingly, gets a little bit of burst of speed. He cuts over to the right. 2 players are covering Suzuki. And out of nowhere, there's 2 players, paused a little bit more in the middle here. You have 3 players in front of the net. 2 behind the Canadians in the middle in the neutral zone. Thompson gets the puck. He loses a battle to Armia. To Armia. He tries to fire around the boards, and it's one of the most embarrassing plays ever. Yeah. You see Justin Braun, who's nowhere near the actual puck. Granted, he's a tall guy. He has a long reach. He's trying to reach over to prevent Suzuki, who makes a phenomenal play, by the way, of waiting, outweighs Carter Hart to make Hart make the first move. He goes down because he thinks he's going to take a shot. Hayes just standing there. Again, to Suzuki's speed and his scoring abilities, easy goal for him, empty net. 22 seconds later, after the Flyers tied the game, and that turned out to be the game-winning goal. Again, this series is tied, heading for Game 6 tomorrow night, 7 p.m. It should have never gotten to this point.
It's just, I don't know why the veterans in this series, namely Braun,
Drew, Couturier,
Thompson,
Hayes,
Couturier looked good.
Well, no, I meant like goal scoring wise for me personally.
Yeah, for those guys, but for the other guys in particular, because obviously Giroux and Couturier, I think more so the last 2 games have stepped it up a bit from where they were at the beginning. But those guys in particular that I just named, they've looked bad all series. Even Provorov at times has looked shaky at the start of the game. He looked a little shaky. I don't know why. More so those guys just somehow, for some reason, just can't deal with the speed of Montreal.
I don't know. And again, this is why you need players and be healthy enough. Nicholas Aubé-Kubel, he provides a lot of speed.
He does. And he did well. He was doing well, and then he got hurt.
Yeah. Again, it wouldn't be a surprise to me if he has a broken toe, because he blocked it around his toe area. Of course, the Flyers can't say anything about injury, so
you'll have to.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's broken toe,
or whenever the Flyers were to get eliminated, or whenever.
Right. But all in all, though, it was a very rough game for the Flyers.
But you could see potential lineup changes, though. And the reason why
I think everyone's,
I know everyone's kind of crapping on JVR for not showing up, and even Ghost too. But Jeff, where do both those players both thrive? Where are their offices? Where is their most deadly attribute?
Yeah. I think I know the answer, and it shouldn't come to a surprise. It's the whomping 1 for 30 power play heading into Game 5.
Yeah. And when they aren't getting utilized on the power play, they aren't going to do well. And surprisingly, the power play, especially second unit at times, has looked really bad. The only positive, if Niskanen is suspended for a game or however long he's suspended for,
I think the fact that Gallagher is out for with a broken jaw, he needs surgery. Again, the series that's going to play a heavy factor into the only thing that's going to save Niskanen is I don't believe he has a history. He's got a few fines. I don't think any suspensions. But
also, why wasn't there anything on the spear on Hayes from the game before?
Because the league sucks. Because the Department of Player Safety is a joke. The refs didn't even get the right call, because that should have been a suspension right away. That should have been a game misconduct and probably a suspension from. I believe it was Max Domi who did that. Yeah.
Again, he's one of those great players that Montreal has. That will kind of do that kind of thing. But again, Michel Therrien I don't know why Chuck Fletcher, when this whole season started and everything, and when he was having the coaches do whatever, assistant-wise and everything, I don't know why they thought Michel Therrien was going to be the best for power play when he has never once really did offensively things ever. But the only positive, if I'll actually finish this thought, is that you'll have hopefully JVR back in the lineup. If not, maybe
I hope so.
But you then have JVR and Ghost on that second unit, and you don't have Niskanen on there, who I don't think is really should be on the power play to begin with. But you then have him with.
He's more of a penalty killer, in my opinion. He's done a lot better. He
has the ability to be offensive, but for the power play's sake, I think Myers could do significantly better, because
Sanheim, Gostisbehere.
Because if it were to me, I think Sanheim is. I think I might have mentioned this last podcast, or maybe just to you, or maybe to myself. I remember saying it to someone. But Sanheim, to me, has the better hockey IQ, so I think he'll be better equipped to making those type of no-look passes, set up plays, that kind of thing. But Phil Myers, I think, could bring you something that a Ryan Ellis type player, Shea Weber, even Zdeno Chara with the size, he has a very unique, great shot. that isn't getting as utilized as it should be, because he can do the Shea Weber thing, even though at the moment it's not Shea Weber-esque, where it's probably not even really in the hundreds yet, but it's still a pretty good slapper and wrist shot. And not just that, with his size, you can do a Chara, and at moments maybe even have him at times be net front.
Yeah, absolutely. The other key to the Flyers'
And JVR.
defensive side,
is put him in his office. You have Ghost back, hopefully, and then you'll have him, another one that will obviously is great on the power play, and you put those guys with TK and Hayes and Sanheim, and that should do well. That second unit should be better, hopefully.
The other thing is, and you mentioned JVR's front, from the office kind of thing, and the net presence. The Flyers aren't getting any bodies in front of Price. They want to win the dang game. They need to get eyes in front of Price, blocking his view. Get tall guys like Couturier, like JVR, who
they should be getting
who will hopefully get back in lineup.
Now,
and again,
because
if you get bodies in front of Price, you take away his vision. You have big guys like Couturier. Even put if Grant's still on the power play, put Grant back on the power play.
Yeah. I agree. Or again,
well, I'm saying if he's on the power play, put him in front of the net. He's a big enough body.
Pull an old Flyers tactic out there back from the Laviolette days of double screen. Hey,
that literally
and
worked
Couturier
perfectly in the Flyers' first game, where Jake Voracek got his first goal of the series, where it was him and Couturier in front of the net. Provorov took a slap shot, a wrist shot from the point. It somehow went off of Voracek. I don't know how it went off of Jake, but it did. I still think that shot went clean through and should be Provorov's goal.
Either way, it had a lot of traffic in front of the net, and it found its way in.
And that's how you're going to get pucks past Price.
Mm-hmm. And luckily, they're actually hoping for maybe another shaky goal, so they're actually shooting more than they were earlier on in the series. And I do believe that now that they've put a couple pucks behind Price, I think that could potentially start getting the offensive flow going, maybe a couple more goals. Because again, the Flyers are a better team than Montreal. You just can't get too locked into their system. And again, it kind of happened, and it reminded me of a Hackstall era type of Flyers game last night.
Yep.
Braun looks like McDonald. That fourth line reminded me of the Belmar fourth line from a couple years ago.
I wouldn't say Belmar.
I was talking about more so his line mates.
All right, that's how I had a feeling you would. With Vandevilde and anyone from
Labimov.
Oh my God, Labimov! I forgot about him. I was picturing more like Yuri Laterra.
Yeah, Yuri Laterra, those guys. That was very reminiscent of those kind of fourth lines. It's
All right, so let me ask you this,
I do believe
Mike.
they will. I think there's going to be a bounce back. I think there's going to be a fire under the Flyers' asses, especially because they gave up multiple times when it seemed like they were starting to get their groove going, even after the major Montreal scored with the Gallagher goal, right? Was that where he hit it midair? Was that Gallagher's goal?
Yes, that was the Gallagher goal.
And that was
Gallagher goal.
Yeah, and they retied it at that point. They just have to clean that up. And defensively, I think they can be able to do that. It's just, I don't know. It's just not trying not to play in their favor. And I just think there's going to be a fire under the Flyers' asses to fix those mistakes. And then just really, there's going to be one of these days where Drew's going to have another Drew shift. Like I've mentioned it 3 podcasts in a row, where he's going to have that type of shift he had against the Penguins.
Third time's the charm.
Yeah. Or it's a similar kind of situation. I think that might have been like a game 6 or something. And it
was game 6, yeah.
Yeah, and someone had to get the ball rolling, and
not only that, but picture that exact scenario for the Flyers Penguins series. They were up 3-0. The Penguins win the next 2 games, forcing a game 6 when the Flyers were up 3-0. So the fact that the Flyers, they were only up 3-1, obviously isn't nearly as bad. The Canadians that won game 5, of course, last night, forcing a game 6. So for the Flyers, though, again, they need to get the energy going very early on. They need to out-hustle, out-muscle, and start hitting everyone in their sight. Not only that, but get bodies in front of the net. It's not that hard You need
Yeah.
to, and I
Sh-
know Vigneault likes to
Honestly, I
mess
don't think
with the
Sherratt
Canadians'
and
lines and everything,
I don't think
but
Sherratt
he
and
really needs to rejuvenate the Giroux, Konechny, Couturier line.
yeah,
He needs to have someone with Hayes, Voracek, and someone else. But again, like the top six, it
Hayes,
should be
Voracek, Farabee,
that would be a great second line. And
or
you
actually,
need,
sorry,
yeah.
because I think they liked how Farabee played. Farabee would be on the first line if I had to assume, and then
And
TK would be
again,
that
I'm
second line.
fine with that. I'm okay with that. It's just you need to have your top guys where they deserve to be, where they should be. I don't care if you're trying to mess with the other team. It worked one game great, but now the Canadians are catching on,
Yeah, you got to change it
and
up again somehow.
you need to change it up to something else. You really do. And
Hmm.
for Vigneault, he needs a player. He
And
needs to coach
realistically
a smarter game
speaking,
six, less fourth line.
yeah,
You need
you
again,
have
the
to,
only time I want to see more fourth line is if Bunneman's out or Thompson's out. You have
and you have
JVR
Raffle
in
on, yeah, and you have Raffle on there.
and Raffle. Yeah, so it's a very again. I am not surprised it's going six. I originally predicted the
Hmm.
Flyers in six. That's what I have in my bracket. I'm hoping that's
Look
the
at
case,
you.
and I think it will be the case.
Yeah. Also, I don't think Sherratt and Weber have looked great in this series, so I think you can get bodies in front of them.
You can. You see guys like Konechny and even Farabee and
Hmm.
Couturier getting in the way of Shea
And both
Weber,
of
Ben.
Farabee's goals have come from that kind of thing you're talking about of
Yeah,
kind of taking away Price's eyes.
literally. Look at the goal that Farabee scored. I
But
believe it
also,
was in game three, where he tipped it in front of the net and then got his own rebound. 16 seconds after the Canadians scored. That's what you need to do.
you know what sucks, Jeff? We're pretty much playing a Carter Hart. That's Carter Hart versus Carter Hart or Carey Price versus Carey Price. They're both very similar goaltenders, and they're
Yeah,
both probably going to have to beat in the same sort of way.
yeah.
And I think both are probably going to try to come back from this one because it wasn't their best performance.
No,
I think
I
both
think it
had
could be a
moments.
goalie versus goalie matchup here.
Yeah, it could be. It's going to be a very, I think, old timey playoff style hockey tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Um,
It's going to be a lot of big hits. It's going to be a lot of
yeah,
intensity. It's going to be even more than last night's game five. It's either going to be a very close 1-0, 2-1 game, or it
it's going to
could
be another
potentially
blowout
be
or
another
yeah, high
five,
scoring.
yeah, 5-4 kind of game.
Yeah, we'll see.
So,
Let's quick, Jeff, do our predictions for this one. I
nope.
think we're both hopefully predicting wins here. I think it's going to be the latter of what you just said. I think this one's going to
Mhm.
be more offensively scoring than it has been in
Yeah.
the first few games because I think both teams are going to come out kind of desperate for this one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it's going to be a 4-3 final. That's what I'll say. 7 goals are scored. The Flyers win 4-3.
That's what I was leaning towards as well. And also, it helps the Flyers even more that they don't have a
No,
pesky,
no, what, no, what,
annoying
no, no, no,
Gallagher.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. We can't beat
No.
someone. I'm going 4-2.
I'm
Take that, Jeff.
going for no, I'm just kidding. Who are your goal scorers, Mike?
Um, Weber on the power play
Okay.
and Thomas Tartar.
Okay. And Tatar, he has looked very, very solid.
He's hit a bunch of
Um,
posts.
he has. Something's bound to go in for him, and I really do think that it's only a matter of time for Tomas Tatar
I think the
to.
Flyers. I also think Flyers' bigger guns will get going. I say Giroux, Couturier, Hollywood Hayes, and I'll say Lawton.
Okay.
Those are my goal scorers for the Flyers.
I'll say 4-3. Flyers, of course, in this one, taking this series and hopefully preventing a game seven. For the Canadians, it will be Ben Sherratt. You have Tomas Tatar. I agree with you. They don't have Brendan Gallagher now, which is a huge, huge plus for the Flyers. They don't have to deal with the annoying pest in front,
But now,
chopping
yeah,
and slashing everyone. So I will say Max Domi gets on the board. And then for the Flyers, it's going to be Joel Farabee. Gossespierre. If he plays, it will
I
be
bet
Shane
he won't be playing.
Gossespierre. But
If he's
again, he's more
suspended,
likely to
yeah.
play because Niskanen. There's no way he doesn't get
I
suspended.
think there's a more question mark on JVR playing. Just
It's
because
more
there
of a
could
question mark
be
on
Knack.
JVR.
You don't know about Abe Kubel, so.
Either way, I'll put it this way: it deserves to
What
be
if,
Knack or JVR.
I know it's not going to happen, Jeff, but what if Oscar Lindblom? That's not going to happen.
I'm saying Oscar puts a baddie.
Oscar's not playing until September, but
I know. But so far it is Gossespierre, Joel Farabee for 2 of the Flyers, 4 goals in their 4-3 victory. The other 2, Sean Couturier and why not? He's staying red hot, Jake Voracek.
there you go. Hopefully that comes true. We'll see. Who knows? It's been a weird kind of series. Hopefully this
It has been, but again, this is the kind of series I was expecting. It's a very frustrating series to watch.
I kind of hope this is one of those games that Flyers just kind of put the pedal to the metal and just go all out.
Yeah,
I know,
and I think it will be because again, they know they can't afford to get this game to Game 7
and go all out. If you're tired by the end of it, your team is relatively young, and I know your older guys may have to take a little longer to recuperate, but you'll have a couple of days off until the next round.
At least.
Win the game, win each period, take it each period at a time, come out with a win the series for the first time since 2012. Can we do that? Flyers, listening?
That'd be great.
Finio,
that would be
let's not play Hextall S tonight or tomorrow night. Sorry.
Hextall?
Yeah.
If it was Hextall hockey, we would be in the box a lot.
Well, yeah, he'd be really angry.
Yeah.
He would actually, I know what would happen. He would have gone after Suzuki.
I think he would have done a lot more than that. I think he would have thrown some slashes his way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I think that's going to be a boiling point. I think that's going to be a thing that gets the Flyers going is that move that Suzuki did.
Apparently, Drouin did it as well. I didn't see it. I don't know if it's one of them.
If they both did it, if it was caught on film, I know it was caught by the bench, especially Carter Hart, and Carter Hart will know more. That's going to play, I think, a bigger hand in the Flyers. Another thing, quick, Jeff, before I forget, who do you think plays with Provorov if Niskanen is out?
Again, if he plays Shane Gossespierre, he and Provorov have tremendous chemistry together.
If you remember the last playoffs, they were actually paired together. Until for some reason McDonald was replaced.
Yeah. But I really think that the Flyers deserve to put Gossespierre in, especially if Niskanen's out.
I think it just makes that easier just plugging him in there.
It really is, yeah.
Then fucking up because I don't think they want to separate Myers and Sanheim.
No.
And there's no way Haig and Braun are moving up.
No.
They're staying third pair.
No. They that's their third pair at best.
I think the key to the Flyers' victory tomorrow night is
don't get any dumb penalties. Know when to walk away.
That. Also, just defend better. Don't have any shaky moments like you did. And just pedal to the metal, like I said earlier. Just go all out. Fix the mistakes that you've had last game. And I think you can come out with a victory tomorrow.
There you go.
And I think with that, that's where we're going to end today. And my vote for that is also Ghost. Just because I think if you put Ghost there, that just adds another offensive level to that first line.
It really does. It really does.
And with that, that's where we're going to end it today. We'll see you next time. And Babs did say to me today that he will be on our next Roundtable podcast. Our next Underachievers podcast. Sorry, we have a name for that. So and that is where we'll actually end it today. So we'll see you next time.